Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words. Tolerate it. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. Anonymous, really anonymous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Around the nation, DYT Nation, Jeff Waldorf here with you. Welcome to the show. It's Friday, end of the week, and what a long week it has been, just like every week under Donald Trump, as well as COVID-19, the economic disaster, and all of the other stuff that seems to be happening. So, nonetheless, we're weekend where I can get to forget about it for at least a day or two. All right. Anyway, I'm going crazy. We're all going crazy here. All right. So anyway, we got a good show for you guys today, including is the reality sinking in for Donald Trump that he is in some major trouble, electorally at least. I wish that wasn't the only trouble that he was in, but okay. Anyway, we'll talk about that. That should be a great story here. We also are going to talk about, of course, what happens when you play stupid games. You win stupid prizes. So we've got a couple of stories about that. We've also got, of course, the Trump administration renewing its attack on the Affordable Care Act. So that's a disastrous story, of course. Here we go again. In the middle of a pandemic, we're going to go and the Trump administration is going to go and try to get rid of the Obamacare, the ACA. I know. Madness, especially since there's no replacement. Okay, we also are going to talk about Elijah McClain. So that's a heartbreaking story. So we'll save that for last. So kind of leave you off to the weekend in a very sad note. I know I do that to you guys all the time. And I apologize for your mental health and your mental well-being. I could be like Donald Trump and be like, I take no responsibility. Not at all. Yeah. Oh, for the biggest laugh you'll ever have, find a YouTube video, West Palm Beach, Florida, hearing on masks. Yeah, Dr. Zippy McScoots, I did that video. I talked about that. That was insane. Holy crap. I still have the video for that, that hearing. Somebody, and I love this, right? It's related. Somebody put it, like I mentioned that it reminded me of Parks and Rec, right? Well, I'm not the only one that was reminded of that. Somebody actually literally put together, mashed up a bunch of videos from Parks and Rec and put that, and not just that, but all these different hearings on masks about that, and put them all together, and it was hilarious. Look, and again, it's one of those situations where you got to either laugh at it or cry. So I prefer to laugh. I like to laugh. All right. Anyway, so hey, you know what? We got some good news, by the way. This is breaking. According to Velshi, that's MSNBC apparently. A U.S. federal appeals court rules Friday that the Trump administration does not have the authority to use the military funding to pay for the construction of a border wall. So, look, turns out you can't take money from the military to build your stupid wall. So guess what? You're not building your damn wall. I mean, he wasn't really going to either, right? Like, you guys knew that. You weren't going to build a wall. And no, not one peso was going to come from Mexico, by the way. And it didn't. So no wall. Of course, if Joe Biden wins, there'll be like a fence or something, or like a bigger fence. Because you know how corporate Democrats, they're going to do what they're going to do. And they're still going to do Republican positions, but like not quite as horribly or not quite as bad, as Republicans, but kind of close with the same sentiment. Like, for example, Hillary Clinton wanted to build border fences. So I wouldn't be surprised if Biden were to go in that direction. After all, we don't really know where Biden is going to go on this because, I saw a discussion actually on the Young Turks main show that I thought was pretty interesting, where, Cenk Uygur was talking about how like there's basically a power struggle, right? He says it's a power struggle. Biden, the donors, you've got the donors, of course, and then you've got progressives that are trying to push him left. We all know, of course, where Biden's going to land on that. He's going to land on, of course, he's going to listen to the donors, of course. And so that's what's going to happen. He's going to go and kowtow to the donors. I don't know if the donors really care about a border fence or a border wall. So, I don't know if he'll make that decision, but usually in any situation when it comes between activists and the donors, Biden is a corporate Democrat. He's going to choose the donors. So that's how that works out. All right. Anyway, let's move on. Let's actually get into the show here. We'll start out with, is reality sinking in? Is a reality starting to sink in for Donald Trump that he could possibly lose the 2020 election? Well, during an interview with Fox News' Sean Hannity, he said this.
Here's a guy who doesn't talk. Nobody hears him. Whenever he does talk, he can't put two sentences together. I don't want to be nice or unnice, okay? But, I mean, the man can't speak. And he's going to be your president because some people don't love me, maybe. And, all I'm doing is doing my job. Don't forget, before the China plague came in, and it's a China plague, before that came in, we had the best job numbers we've ever had. We had the best economy we've ever had. We had the best stock market we've ever had, which, by the way, is getting very close to those numbers anyway. And in NASDAQ, it's actually beat those numbers. But we have the best numbers we've ever had.
He's going to be president because some people don't love me. I mean, that's a weird thing to say in the middle of trying to tout yourself, right? Because that's what he was doing. He's like, first went against Joe Biden, went on the attack, was like, oh, the guy can't speak. He can't say sentences. Oh, really?
Tolerated. Mike Pounds.
I'm just saying, you kind of have a little bit of a difficulty, a bit of difficulty speaking as well and putting together coherent sentences. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that Biden I'm not saying that Biden is doing much better. You know the thing, which is going to make debate night really, really fun, by the way. That should be very, very interesting watching these two guys try to put together coherent sentences to use against each other. I'm sure Biden is actually going to do a little bit better, as he's a little bit more mentally stable than Donald Trump. But nonetheless, those two, they're kind of both sundowning. I'm just saying, I think Donald Trump's going a little bit faster, though, a little bit more advanced. But that's just my my opinion. Yes, the oranges of the investigation. Oh my God. All right. I could go on. But let's not do that. So now, here's Donald Trump, even after everything that's going on, right? Again, still trying to tout his number and making himself into a victim because those numbers are no longer what they used to be. Oh my God, I can't believe it. We used to have the best economy. We had the best everything. And the subtext there is then coronavirus had to go and ruin it. And now Joe Biden's going to win because people don't love me. It's all about you, isn't it? I mean, again, here's the victim, right? He's the victim. Again, always the victim. Let me tell you who the real victims are, right? The American people. Just over 120,000 people have died from the coronavirus in this country. The economy is in shambles. The numbers are not so good, right? Except for the stock market, which doesn't really affect Main Street all that much. And it's not just because of the closures, by the way. I know a lot of people can point to the closures as part of our economic harm. But in reality, our economy has been running on a house of cards. It is a house of cards that's been, again, running on consumer debt and the sugar high of corporate tax cuts. That was going to run out. It just was. I mean, again, you had wages that were not keeping up with inflation. You had an economy where there was, a huge, vast concentration of wealth at the very top. And so in that situation, can you really say the economy was good? I mean, again, the economy isn't just rich people and people with stock portfolios. No, you have to involve Main Street. You have to involve people not only at the middle, but also at the bottom as well. And those people were not doing so well. And again, this was before the COVID closures, which has just made things worse, understandably so, right? And has plunged us into a recession, I think, far sooner than we were going to. I remember saying that there was going to be an economic collapse at some point, and really coronavirus was the tipping point, and now we're in the middle of that collapse. Again, you have states that have tried to open up, and job numbers really still not recovering. I think we now have 1.5 million additional people that have filed for unemployment at this point. So, look, I'm just saying, the economy, not good now, wasn't good before, but it had the illusion of looking good. But Donald Trump doesn't read into that because he's not a smart person. He's not a very stable genius, turns out. And so when it comes to the details, when it comes to nuance, he's not going to be responsive to it because he just pays attention to surface details that make him look good. And for that, he's a lot like his base that look at the same thing. All right. That said, it's not just the economy, right? You've also got racial tension and strife. We've had that before. We've had that for a while. But during the Trump administration, it has come out really full force. And a lot of this is what Donald Trump had enabled. Yes, it existed before Donald Trump. Of course, he's a symptom of the disease. But at the same time, he enabled the disease so where it would basically break out to the surface a lot more than it had before. And so, I mean, all those things. Donald Trump has not helped. He has actively hurt the country. But he's going to miss the point and, of course, talk about himself more, which is what he does best. That's why all this is why people don't want him as a president, because all he cares about is himself. All of his decisions, all of his policies serve to do one thing, and that's help him, either financially or, electorally. And I'm not a naive person. I'm not going to say that, oh, no, Donald Trump's the only person that has ever thought about his own reelection. No, that's ridiculous, right? I get it. Most politicians will base what they do on their reelection chances. I get it. We all do. It's just that Donald Trump makes it extremely obvious that he's only doing it for himself. And it doesn't help the fact that everything he's done hasn't really helped the people, hasn't been oriented towards helping the people. Again, we have a pandemic here in this country. And while other countries are, doing paycheck guarantees where the government will come in and subsidize your paycheck instead of your employer, or where the government will give you a UBI every month, what we got is, some additional unemployment benefits, which are good if you can get through to apply for unemployment and if you're eligible. And some people got a $1,200 stimulus check, just one. And so, that's really, that's not a lot. But that's the best they could do. And now that the polls have sunk, and they have, in a lot of states, Donald Trump, where Donald Trump had won, he is now falling behind. He's even behind in Texas, where Joe Biden is winning in Texas. He's gotten to the point where he's like, let's give people another check, which isn't going to happen because Mitch McConnell, of course, doesn't want to do that, because Mitch McConnell doesn't care about the American people, never has, never will. But Donald Trump's like, I know what'll help. What will help my popularity if I give people money, because it always seems to work for him, right? It always worked for him, and it always worked on him too. So people give him money, he likes it. Hey, the Saudis give me all sorts of money by going and renting my condos. I love the Saudis. So that's what he's thinking. I'll just give these stupid Americans another $1,200 check, and then they'll be fine. They'll reelect me. No, that's not going to happen. Both in the fact that we're not getting another $1,200 check, and even if we did, that still doesn't mean that people are going to reelect him, because he's deeply, deeply unpopular. And so, look, he should have been in favor. If he was actually serious about this, he should have been in favor of more aggressive testing, even though, yes, when you test more, you're obviously going to find cases. It's not like those cases didn't exist before you tested and found them, but it would actually help control this pandemic a little bit more. And the sooner that we control it, of course, the sooner we can actually safely reopen and get back to business. He didn't do that. Instead, he pressured the states to reopen, said, I'm not going to help you financially, forcing some of the states that might even not even wanted to reopen early to be forced in a budgetary position to have to reopen. Not only that, and of course, that puts a lot of people in danger of this virus, because people pay attention. Most people know, and they agree with locking down the country, even if it causes economic harm. The Republicans are not in favor of that. But one way to mitigate it would have been to do a UBI. There was UBI proposals. Donald Trump said nothing about a UBI. His main thing was, let's just give rich people tax cuts. Let's give more corporate welfare, and then we'll do a payroll tax cut. Yeah. So instead, he says, let's shut down testing. Let's do less of it, because bigger numbers make me look bad. He's a danger to society. This is why even a dinosaur with significant policy and even some mental cognitive issues like Joe Biden is kicking his ass in the polls. Now, you guys know Biden's not my guy, right? He's not my first choice. He's not a lot of people's first choice, right? And yet right now, most people would be like, oh, no, Biden? Yeah, Biden way over. Yep, I'll pick him over Trump. Again, you have these never Trump Republicans, which, again, I don't agree with. I don't like these never Trump Republicans. I think, they're generally pretty terrible people, and they're going to try to get Joe Biden, of course, to do more conservative policies, which is generally his inclination anyway. And, let's be real about that, right? We're not getting super progressive policy out of Joe Biden. What we're going to get is a little bit of, stemming the bleeding, just a little bit that Donald Trump had inflicted on the country. That's not what I want. I want progressive policy. I want Medicare for all. I want, a living wage. And look, $15 an hour is not enough. I think it should go up to 20. But that's just me. Nonetheless, I'm just saying Joe Biden is beating Donald Trump, and there's a reason for that. And it's not because of Joe Biden, it's because Donald Trump. This election is becoming a referendum, and now he knows this. And Donald Trump's aware of the polls. And when he's not, enraged and thinking that they're fake news, I think he is understanding that there's something that's going on. Yeah, and maybe he blames, of course, coronavirus, for whatever, and says, well, I can't believe my numbers were so, were so good before, and now they're not. And now, that's why I'm not going to win. Well, no matter how he or what he blames it on, or how he tries to spin this, the fact of the matter remains is that he's deeply unpopular, and that this is a referendum, and he's going to, in all likelihood, probably lose. Assuming things don't change, of course, and I know that they always can, and I know that they do, but as it stands right now, Donald Trump's in a world of hurt, and he knows it. Okay. Let's go to Florida. You guys like Florida, right? It appears that some Florida voters are not thrilled with the job that Governor Ron DeSantis is doing when it comes to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, in fact, according to the Daily Beast, the state keeps setting daily records for new cases after DeSantis reopened the economy, and the new outbreak has cut into his approval rating and even makes Donald Trump vulnerable, potentially, in November's reelection. So now, this is according to some people that the Daily Beast talked to. One of them was Democratic political consultant Jeff Garcia. So now he said this, quote, if you look around the country, most governors, regardless of party, saw their numbers rise. I mean, look, it makes sense. It really depends on, of course, how you've handled the coronavirus pandemic. If you were out there doing the right things and attending to the needs of the people and doing the best that you can, then yeah, it's going to make sense that your numbers are going to rise. However, DeSantis, well, his approval rating did not do so well and actually dropped 7 points from 58 to 51% in April, while many other governors were seeing a rise in their numbers. Now, Garcia says, quote, DeSantis is in a rare category. He is not overwhelmingly disliked, but he has seen a precipitous drop in his approval rating. Now, why is that? Well, it's because Florida is, right now, a disaster. Recently, Florida has been seeing over 5,000 plus new COVID-19 cases daily. In fact, it's been reported just today that Florida has seen nearly 9,000 new cases. It's almost over 9,000. Pretty soon, it's going to be over 9,000. That's a complete and utter disaster. Despite, of course, DeSantis and his administration trying to hide the coronavirus death numbers from the public and make this information not as easily accessible or available, right? And so not only that, but you have Florida's unemployment system, which is a mess. It's a complete disaster. Now, it wasn't set up by Ron DeSantis, but it was set up by Rick Scott and Florida Republicans who made that system as broken and as unnavigable as possible to try to make it so that, of course, people could not get unemployment. Of course, that's to be fair, Florida's not the only state that has seen difficulties with the system. For example, here in Michigan, we have Governor Gretchen Whitmer, and it's still incredibly difficult for you to get an unemployment claim and to get it approved. So, and that's, of course, happening all over the country as just the sheer amount of people that are filing unemployment claims is too much for any of these systems to handle. So that's it. All right. A lot of this is making Ron DeSantis think about his approach a little bit. For example, DeSantis said this week, quote, "We are where we are. I didn't say we're going to go to the next phase." And that, of course, refers to the next phase of reopening. These coronavirus spikes have got him to stop basically trying to reopen things. They're taking a little bit of pause. And not only are they doing that, of course, in Florida, but they're also doing that in Texas. Texas is also pausing their reopening because they're seeing certain spikes. And so if Florida becomes a new pandemic hotspot, which is what it's looking like, right? Then, well, voters are going to be really happy or really unhappy. In fact, that's already begun. The Daily Beast spoke to one voter here. This is Miami voter Rod Deal. So let's be fair about Rod Deal. He wasn't exactly a DeSantis fan, right, to begin with. However, he said, quote, I thought he was making strides in solar power energy and increasing teacher salaries. So, well, look, those are two things, of course, to be happy about, right? I like solar power. I got solar panels on my house. I like increasing teacher salaries, and that's what Ron DeSantis did. And so this person who admittedly went for Andrew Gillum 2 years ago says, look, you know what? Ron DeSantis actually not doing too bad of a job. Quote, I thought he was putting the people's needs first. From what I saw, I thought I will vote for him next time. So you had a Gillum voter going over and thinking, you know what, Ron DeSantis, he's doing a good job. I like him. I like some of the things he's done. So yeah, I'll vote for him. However, unfortunately, because of COVID-19, that has changed. Because now he says this, quote, it was only in the last 3 months that I started wondering, what in the hell is up with this dude? Opening up the entire state with the COVID numbers going up was horrible. And look, we've not even seen the worst, because this not only spreads very easily, but once it does, it spreads exponentially. And so now Florida, Florida, again, 9,000 cases in one day. What a disaster. So now Florida has immediately taken action. This is breaking as well. Just earlier today, they responded by suspending alcohol sales at bars. Now you might think, wait a minute, how would that help the coronavirus numbers? Well, it's kind of a stealthy way of shutting down the bars without actually shutting down the bars. It is kind of brilliant in a way, because look, Ron DeSantis wants to say, hey, I didn't shut down the economy again. No. I believe that the economy should continue, humming along. I'm just going to go and suspend alcohol sales for a short time. And the result of that, of course, would be people not wanting to go to the bars. I mean, why would you go to a bar if there's no alcohol? I mean, it doesn't make sense. I guess some people do, right? I don't really know who, but I guess some people would. But most people go to a bar to drink and to have fun and to dance and all that stuff. And so it's not quite the same if the bar is not serving drinks. So it's a kind of a weird, stealthy Republican move. Like, oh, no, I didn't close down the bars. The bars are still open. So I didn't close down any businesses. You can't serve any alcohol. And that, of course, is going to reduce the numbers of people going out to the bars, which will also help reduce the spread of the coronavirus in these establishments. So, I mean, again, I guess it's a way to skirt around the issue while also addressing part of the problem. But the other part, of course, is that really what he should be doing is at least doing mandatory masks. And, that is one thing that he's not willing to do as governor. Now, there are places in Florida, counties in Florida, that have voted on mandatory masks. Palm Beach County, for example, just recently voted to require mandatory masks in most public places. And so that's a good step. Ron DeSantis is not willing to do that, not quite yet at least. But we'll see if the coronavirus numbers continue to get worse, what he actually does. And so I think it's going to get worse before it gets better, because I think we're only seeing the first part of these new spikes, because it's going to take a couple of weeks of lag time, because of the incubation period, the 2-week period. And of course, it really also relies on how, people will listen, how well they'll listen to social distancing and, wearing masks. And what we've seen in Florida, of course, unfortunately, is that there are groups of people that do not believe at all in wearing masks and still will refuse to do so, even as the numbers continue to spiral out of control. So, all right. DeSantis blames the farm workers for the spike. That's horrible. That is horrible. Let's blame the most powerless people. Let's do that. All right. And what I would consider to be a supreme irony, the co-founder of a reopen group, Reopen Maryland, has tested positive for COVID-19. Because of course he did. Now, this is Tim Walters, right? Tim Walters is actually a 2-time Republican candidate for the General Assembly, and also, again, is a co-founder to the group Reopen Maryland. Explained in a series of Facebook videos that he has COVID-19. In fact, here's what he said. I was diagnosed yesterday at the ER with COVID-19. And here I am, months after not wearing masks at rallies, churches, and so on. And so it's funny how capricious this thing is. Yeah, no kidding, man. If only there were people out there saying how bad this virus is from the start, and that maybe people should wear masks and do some physical distancing. Maybe that would help. Oh, right. So now Walters is also known for helping organize protests in Annapolis and elsewhere against the shutdown orders implemented by Governor Larry Hogan, who later on, of course, bowed to the pressure and began to open up, as some of these governors have, these Republican governors specifically. So, look, let me just say that I'm not happy about this. All right. It may seem like it, like, oh, you're doing a little bit victory lap because this guy got coronavirus. No, here's the thing. I don't want anybody to get coronavirus. It's not a victory lap. It's a warning. Like, I can understand if people want to open up the economy. I get it, right? Because people are economically hurting and the states aren't exactly getting help from the federal government, right? And so I understand people worried about the economy, right? But these groups, I mean, what you're going to have is more economic distress later on. And again, part of that is because the federal government has been doing a really, really terrible job of supporting people. I mean, look, understand, like, and this is a good argument, right? The federal government, I mean, if they, expect people to shut down and then not help them, or these states to shut down and these businesses to shut down, people to lose their jobs, and the government doesn't help them, well, of course, you're going to have a lot of people that are very angry and want to reopen up. And I get that. And that's a fair argument. That is why government should have actually did a UBI instead of a one-time $1,200 coronavirus check. But I don't think this is where Tim Walters, the direction that he's coming from. It's more of like a government, get off my boot, stop telling me what to do, all that stuff. So, your typical conservatism, right? So now, understand, like, why I'm giving you this warning and why I'm even doing this story. It's because there are people like this that we have warned for months. Hey, wear a mask. Do some physical distancing. right? And, help flatten the curve, slow the spread of the virus. And people like him are like, no, not only am I going to push to reopen, right? But I'm also going to go around and I'm going to go into close proximity with other people. I'm not going to wear a mask and I'm not going to physically distance. And then, surprise, surprise, shock of all ages, he's now going to announce that he has coronavirus. And the thing is, people like this are at risk. Walters is 53, right? He's got diabetes, and he admits that he has maintained or has not maintained good health habits since leaving the U.S. Navy. So that puts him at very high risk for serious symptoms, right? These symptoms of COVID-19 could involve eventually a trip to the ICU or worse, getting put on a ventilator. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying it definitely is a bigger possibility given the fact that he has a pre-existing condition, diabetes specifically, right? Those are the people that are labeled to be high risk. And so it's ironic when he says this, quote, I just want to educate people. Don't live in fear. Chances are everyone is going to get this. So that's how he finished that off, right? So look, yes, educating people is good, but then saying, well, don't live in fear. Okay, look, I get it. I don't want to live in fear, right? I don't live in fear. You shouldn't live in fear. But what you shouldn't live in also is ignorance, right? And fear and ignorance tend to go hand in hand. That's why you got to learn as much as you can about the virus, how it spreads, and, like what you can do to protect yourself against it. And it turns out, according to studies, that masks are basically, at this point, the most effective way of protecting yourself and your family against coronavirus. If everybody wears a mask, the main route of transmission of the virus is stopped. And so wearing a mask, if everybody does it, then it's a lot better, especially if they also keep a 6-foot distance inside of many establishments, right? And so now he also says, chances are that everybody's going to get this. Well, yeah, that's because there are people like you. And it's not like me being mean about that. It's just a statement of fact. Because for months, this guy ran around spreading this possibly to everybody and didn't really think about it. Didn't think twice. Didn't take it seriously. So yeah, he's probably right. Most people will get it because there are people like this that exist. And so now Walter's wife and his family members have been tested for the virus, and that's smart. And I hope they weren't exposed. And if they are, that they recover. Obviously, because I'm not a monster, right? I'm not a monstrous person. I want people to not get the virus in the first place. That would be nice. But anybody who does, I don't wish, a ventilator on anybody having to use it, right? Now, he also encouraged anyone else who would come into contact with him in recent weeks to pay attention to possible symptoms. Again, that's smart, right? So where I disagree with him on this is when he says that he will not provide information to the public health officials for use in contact tracing. He says, I will not share anybody's information with the government. I will not do it. Come on, man. Look, I get it, right? You're a anti-government conservative. I get it. Of course, you don't want to share anything with the government. Look, I have issues with my own privacy and sharing information with the government. Surprise, surprise, right? I'm a progressive. Progressive doesn't mean I love government and I want it intruding upon my life. No, I mean, you could think of me as a little bit of a libertarian socialist, a little bit, since I've got those tendencies, even though I'm a little bit more social democrat than anything. It's like, and basically what that means is government should kind of stay out of regulating my life, except when it comes to, I shouldn't say except when it comes to, but I also want it to help people, right? I want the government to play a role in helping people. Like, I don't want them involved in abortion, right? That's why I'm pro-choice. I don't want them involved in, doing drugs and whatever that. But I do want everybody to get health care. I want everybody to get a college education without going into massive amounts of debt. And so that's kind of the difference, right? And so I don't want my private information being shared with the government. So I get that, right? Except that in the situation that we live in right now, everything's shared with the government. If you post on Facebook those videos, well, guess what? The government can see those. If you post on Facebook, there's a good chance the government can share that, Facebook will share that information with the government, right? Um, Same thing with emails, right? Use an email, you send an email, guess what? The government probably knows what's in it. I mean, remember, guys, Snowden had basically unmasked a gigantic government spying program on its own citizens. They had been vacuuming up just about everybody's metadata. And so they've got information on all of us. And also, the government knows where everybody lives, where they work, their names, social security numbers, obviously, because of, taxes. And so the government already knows all this stuff. You're not really giving them anything new about you that they didn't already know, except information about who you were in contact with and who you could have given coronavirus to. And that is information that I think the government needs to know in order to help combat this virus. Again, contact tracing and quarantining are other, basically the most effective ways, along with not getting the virus from, or not spreading the virus from wearing masks and doing physical distancing, is the other best ways of fighting this virus. And look, I know you can't be compelled to do it, right? And I'm actually really uncomfortable with enforcement of masks and physical distancing requirements, because it seems like police will use that to justify, bullying minorities, as they tend to do. And so I'm uncomfortable with the enforcement parts of this. So really, I think it comes down to the individual, unfortunately, to try to make the right choice in saying, I actually care about not just myself, my own health, but the health of my community. And so I am deciding to wear a mask. That involves empathy, unfortunately. And you have to have enough empathy to do your part as an American to try to stop this virus, which is killing Americans. So you kind of have to remember that. Over 120,000 people are dead. So, I mean, this guy said for himself, this is capricious, right? Doesn't care about you or your political affiliation or your distrust of the government. It does not give a shit. You are simply a tool, a body to use to infect others. That's what you are to this virus. So, my opinion, be smart, get some goddamn empathy, wear a mask, do the right thing, do the contact tracing, and do your part in order to stop this virus. That's the only way we can, ironically, reopen safely as well, and reopen sooner, is if we actually put a stop to this virus. All right. I'm going to take a quick break here. We're going to come back. We've got Donald Trump is going after the ACA in the middle of a pandemic. We have the details on that. And then, if we got time, Elijah McClain. All right. We'll see you guys in a minute. Stay right here. Be right back. Around the Nation.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble.
Mike Pounds.
Wait. Oh, you're getting nervous, man.
Around the nation, right here at TWT Nation, Jeff Alder here with you. Back on the show. All right, so before I get into it, super chat here from Kathy Harvey. Happy Friday. Well, happy Friday to you, Kathy. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, channel memberships. I want to give a shout out real quick here to Isabeau Norwood and Progressive Geek. I am also a Progressive Geek, so awesome. Got that in common. All right. Then patreon.com/TWTNation. I want to thank DJ Times 2 and Mark Van Buskirk for signing up, some of the newest patrons of the day. So thank you to both of you. If you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/TWTNation, support independent progressive media. All right. That said, let's get back into it. We get this ACA story, which is pretty important. All right. President Donald Trump has just launched a new attack against Obamacare, also known as the Affordable Care Act. So now, according to Common Dreams, the Trump administration late Thursday night filed a legal brief asking the Supreme Court to invalidate the entirety of the Affordable Care Act. So the result of that, of course, would be to strip Americans of health insurance. 20 million people in this country. And then it would also cut taxes for the richest Americans, which also would be in the middle of a pandemic. Now, the brief submitted by the Justice Department is in support of a Republican lawsuit. And it argues that since you repealed the individual mandate back in 2017, that the rest of the ACA also needs to be repealed with it, since that, of course, is considered one of the linchpins of the legislation. So now, Solicitor General Noe Francisco says this, quote, the entire ACA, since that individual mandate is gone, must fall with that individual mandate. So, look, here's the thing. The unmitigated gall, the sheer freaking hubris, right, that it takes to move forward with this lawsuit at a time when tens of millions of people are unemployed. 120,000 Americans have died, with over 2 million infected with a virus. And yet, we're going to move forward to try to eliminate anybody else. Like, I know millions of people have already lost their employer-sponsored insurance. Now, they're going to try to get more people kicked off their employer-sponsored insurance. Ultimate spite. As Jake Johnson points out, the brief comes at a time when millions of Americans are newly uninsured due to the coronavirus pandemic, which caused calamitous job losses nationwide and kicked many people off their employer-provided coverage. Government data released on Thursday shows that nearly 500,000 Americans turned to the federal ACA exchanges in April and May after losing their health insurance due to the COVID-19 crisis. So, of course, if you lose your employer-sponsored insurance, and, COBRA, of course, is 100% unaffordable for many, many people, then, yeah, you're going to try to go to the exchanges to try to get something, especially if you have a pre-existing condition, especially if you have medical issues that you need to be covered. And so what does this do? I mean, obviously, if you eliminate the ACA, then there go the ACA exchanges. Those are gone. If successful, Johnson points out, the effort by Republican state attorneys general and the Trump administration to tear down the ACA would add an additional 23 million Americans to the ranks of the uninsured and end protections for more than 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. And that, of course, is a monstrous result. Why would you do that? Unless, of course, you hate it when people have healthcare, or I should say health insurance, be fair about that, and you hate Obama because it was Obama's bill. Now, there's another reason, of course, to that, and that, of course, is tax cuts for the rich. Full repeal of the ACA would deliver massive tax cuts to the richest Americans and big corporations, according to the report released this week by the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. The highest income, 0.1%, that's 1 in 1,000 households, will receive tax cuts averaging about $198,000 per year. Households with annual incomes over $1 million would receive tax cuts averaging about $42,000 per year, or again, more than most people's median pay in America. Striking down the ACA would also transfer billions of dollars each year from low and moderate income people who would lose their subsidized health coverage to high income households and corporations, which would receive the largest tax cuts. It is literally redistribution of wealth instead of, it being redistributed from the top to the rest of the country. It would be the opposite, redistributed from lower and middle income to the highest incomes. So, yeah, right to the top. So, look, you guys know I have an issue with the ACA, right? I think the ACA is corporate giveaways, basically, to the health insurance companies. I think we should abolish health insurance companies. Yeah, I went there. And do a single-payer healthcare. 100%. I think this whole drive to, fix and improve the ACA is just a bunch of garbage. We need a Medicare for all system. We already have a great system. It's called Medicare. Expand it to everybody. And then with a couple of, modest tweaks, you can make the Medicare system much, much better to where you don't need those supplemental plans anymore. Get rid of them. Get rid of them. Get rid of the insurance lobby. And so, as Pramila Jayapal, representative from Washington and co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and the lead sponsor for the House version of Medicare for All, said in response, "We need to be guaranteeing health care for all, not gutting it from millions." And she's exactly right, 100%. And look, here's the thing, right? During the primary, we heard a lot about this, right? Where these establishment folks would come out and say, we can't do Medicare for all. You're going to kick millions of people off health insurance. People like Neera Tanden would come out and lie about this and say, well, I can't believe you want to kick, Bernie Sanders wants to kick millions of people off their health care. No, that's not what would happen. Medicare for all wouldn't kick anybody off their health care. It would actually replace it with something better, with better insurance, equivalent to the Cadillac plan, with no premiums, copays, and deductibles, paid for by your taxes. You know how they do it in every other civilized country on earth. Not only that, but it would be guaranteed that if you lose your job, which again, we've got millions of people, tens of millions of people out of work now who have lost their employer-sponsored coverage that would have insurance under a single-payer system, because everybody would have insurance and everybody would have the same quality insurance. And no, I know there are some people out there that absolutely hate that. But look, ending the ACA in this way without a replacement, right? Republicans aren't even concerned about a replacement. I mean, they only put one up because they were kind of expected to. And that, of course, was just like ACA light with high risk pools, basically like some of the worst ideas that would immediately create basically a death spiral in the markets for people who are, who have pre-existing conditions, who already can't afford their health care, that would be immediately priced out. And so it would be an absolute disaster, an unmitigated disaster, especially for struggling Americans, especially since we're in the middle of a pandemic. In fact, according to the Wall Street Journal, this wouldn't only end coverage for the 11.4 million who signed up for insurance this year, but also halt the expansion of Medicaid that covers more than 12 million people. So insurers would also, again, be able to deny people health coverage or charge higher premiums to consumers with pre-existing conditions. And that, of course, is absolutely monstrous. Can't do that. Can't do that. I mean, look, there are people fighting this, obviously, right? For example, you have California Attorney General Xavier Becerra, member of the coalition of Democratic state attorneys general, fighting the GOP lawsuit that are doing this in court. And he said this, quote, "In the middle of the pandemic, the Trump administration is fighting to destroy the ACA. Tonight before SCOTUS, they showed how far they are willing to go. And of course, what we have here is a conservative Supreme Court. So Look, I don't know how far this challenge is going to go in the Supreme Court. I don't know if John Roberts is going to, again, do the 5-4. We don't know how this is going to turn out. But to do this in the middle of a pandemic is just insane. Now, ahead of the Trump administration's anticipated legal filing, House Democrats on Wednesday introduced their own legislation to bolster the ACA. Unfortunately, they stopped, as of course we expect, well short of progressive calls to expand Medicare to cover people who are uninsured. It's titled the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Enhancement Act, because they're enhancement, right? And they say that it's going to make the ACA more affordable by boosting federal premium subsidies. So basically what they're doing is that they're just going to give health insurance companies more money. And that's it. That's their plan. We'll give corporations more money. We'll give more corporate welfare in order to lower prices. Well, what's going to stop these insurance companies from saying, "Ooh, we're getting more federal money. Well, let's just boost our prices then." I mean, it's literally not going to help whatsoever at all. And so it really is amazing how, in the face of the fact that millions of Americans have lost their health insurance, possibly millions more in the middle of a pandemic, right, that the Democrats are still going with their market approach, right, and not embracing single-payer healthcare. I mean, to be fair, it's the Democratic establishment. The voters have embraced single-payer. People are on board. You see in the primaries, right? Progressives who support Medicare for all are starting to win their races. They're starting to win their primaries against establishment Democrats. And a lot of them are looking like they're going to win their elections in the general. And so they support that policy. The corporate Democrats don't. Not only that, but you have Democratic independent voters that are now in favor of expanding Medicare to everyone. And it's polling even higher than it has before. As more proof comes out that it's the best policy, it's almost as if the pandemic has opened up a lot of people's eyes. I think that we're seeing a sea change here, right? I think we will at some point have Medicare for all. I think we're going to win on this issue. I don't think, maybe not with Biden. Biden himself has said, no, I'll veto it. It costs too much. But maybe afterwards, right? Depending on how long Biden is president. It may be a while, but I think we are going to win on this issue. I think the future is massively progressive. And I think at some point, we will join with the rest of the developed world to ensure that we guarantee healthcare to every man, woman, and child in this country. We have to. At some point, there's really no choice. The system right now is unsustainable. All right. Yeah, man, that's unfortunately that's all the time that we have. We got like 2 minutes left. So look, I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and share the stream if you haven't already. Very helpful when you do, or sign up to become a patron. Patreon.com/TYTNation, where of course you get the audio version of the show with all the breaks and stuff cut out, or with the break cut out, and no ads. So that's kind of cool. We're also on iTunes. So go, download the podcast from there. If you want to listen to the shows on the go, subscribe, of course, to the channel. Again, helps us out greatly. Like us on Facebook, all that wonderful stuff. I know some of you are watching here on Facebook. So if you haven't already, please follow our page, like our page. That's facebook.com/TYTNation, all that stuff. Yeah. All those different ways to help us out. Patreon, channel memberships, all that stuff. All right, guys. I'm heading out. You guys have a safe weekend. Wash your hands. Wear a mask if you're going to go anywhere. Or stay home. Stay safe. All that wonderful stuff. And we'll see you again next week, Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, right here, TYT Nation. Love you guys. And remember, change begins with you.
Mike Pounds.
Please clap.
Uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Wait, oh, you're getting nervous, man.
They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.